So you roll up to the first tee, you're feeling really groovy on the driving range, and then this happens. That dreaded slice has returned. In fact, it probably never left. If you've been struggling with the slice for years, let's try 2 simple setup changes that I assure you are going to transform the way you see your ball flight. The first thing we got to understand is that for most players who have a slice, there is a common theme in regards to their grip. Okay, so we need to understand how to use these grips to our advantage. And we're going to work on some extremes. We're going to work on how to open the face and close the face. Now, if you're slicing it, you probably already know how to open the face. Okay, so for most slices, we see a combination of this. Okay, we're going to work on a weak grip to begin with. Now, a weak grip, I want you to think about if you had a screwdriver in your hand. If I twist that screwdriver with my lead hand to the left as a right-handed player, if I screw it to the left, I'm going to open the club face. And the same thing is true for my right hand as well, my trail hand. If I turn the screw to the left, again, I'm going to be opening up the club face. Now let's test that theory. I'm going to turn the screwdriver to the left with my lead hand, and then I'm going to take my grip. So you can see I'm kind of wrapped underneath here. The crease between my index and my thumb is pointing towards my left shoulder. That's important to know. And then we're going to do the same thing with the screwdriver in our right hand. So we're going to turn the screw, and I'm going to bring that hand on top. And again, you're going to see that crease or that V between the thumb and the index immediately points to my left shoulder. Now what this does, again, when I'm turning the screw to the left, is it opens the club face. And so let's test this. So I've got a weaker grip on, and this is common for a lot of slices of the golf ball. We're going to take a swing. I feel that club face immediately opening up, and there's the result. Now, it's important to note, immediately we can see as well, our face to path is 10.5 degrees open, okay? All because I turned that screwdriver to the left, okay? Towards my lead side. So simple, right? Turn it left, club face opens. So now we just have to do the opposite. We're gonna turn that screwdriver now to the right or towards my trail side, and that's gonna shut the face, and this will likely lead to more of a hook bias, okay? So let's test that again. We're gonna grab our screwdriver, turn to the right. I'm gonna bring that lead hand on top, and now you're gonna see that crease actually points a little bit closer towards my right pec or my right shoulder. And again, turning the screwdriver, gripping underneath, that crease again, or that V shape between the thumb and the index is now way outside my right shoulder. Okay, so gripping strong here, and we expect to see this ball moving hard to the left. And I want you to watch the face to path. Immediately, we were positive 10 when we turned the screwdriver to the left. We now turn the screwdrivers to the right, and you see that my face to path is minus 10. Okay, so I'm shutting the face now. So with that information, theoretically, we can start to iron this out. Now, we basically have worked on opening face, closing face. Let's find a middle ground. We have both ends of the spectrum. So super simple. I know how to open the face. I know how to close the face. So let's get those screwdrivers and let's find middle ground. Okay. Now, when I turned left, my thumbs pointed to the left. And when I turned right, my thumbs pointed to the right. So let's get these thumbs pointing out in front of us. And let's think of it in the capacity that if I just stand nice and tall and relaxed, my thumbs, or the crease that we created between the thumb and the index, just point straight. If I turn my screwdriver, I bring my hands down in front of me, that's a pretty awkward position. But again, if I relax, my hands rotate naturally out in front of me so that, again, the crease is forward. See what this is doing? And now I grip my club and I do the same thing. I relax, see how my forearms and my hands are rotating. That's opening the face. So now we're starting to understand why the face opens and closes. So with that in mind, let's stop twisting the screwdriver. Let's try and get a neutral screwdriver. Okay, so we're not going to really twist it too much. So when I grip now, I'm going to make sure that I'm gripping so that the crease, okay, points a little bit more towards the center of my chest here. You can see this V is pointing closer to the center of my chest with my lead hand. And then vice versa, I'm going to relax my hand, get that crease out in front, bring it to the side of the grip, and you'll notice that this crease is pointing basically just right of my sternum. Okay, so towards my pec or even towards the armpit here. Okay, that's based on our screwdriver analogy. So take my setup, V kind of runs up towards my armpit here. This one here is pointing closer to my sternum. Now let's take a swing based on that. And again, we're just going to look at our face to path. There you go, minus 2.3. Gave me a really, really tidy draw. Okay, so immediately, just by understanding the whole idea of the screwdriver, where I put my hands and how that influences the club face, I've gone from plus 10 to minus 10 to minus 2. Okay, so that is a huge fluctuation between controlling my face to path purely by where I place my hands on the club. Now, with all of that information, we can start to iron out for each of you where your hands might need to be. Maybe you need to be slightly strong or a slightly weaker grip to control the face depending on your natural tendencies, your common ball flight, and what you'd like to see off the tee. Okay, so for example, like I'm usually hitting more of a draw here. Sometimes I can overdraw it. So I want to potentially work a little bit more on a slightly weaker grip just to stop that club face shutting, because my path is usually into out with my driver, and that's going to promote more of a draw anyway. Okay, now we're talking fractions. I can mess around with this, and having this information is crucial because I'm able to identify these things and iron them out. But this is huge to getting you better and getting you understanding your own swing. More importantly, what is happening with that club face. So we fixed club face. Okay, we've worked on our grip. Again, most common for a lot of slicers is get that trail hand on top and be very weak, and that opens the face. So let's be mindful of that. But we have to check one other thing. That is our setup. Okay, now again, I'm going to use as an example what I see most slicers of the golf ball doing in terms of their setup and why it's incorrect. Okay, so in your setup, for most slicers, this is what I see. That trail shoulder way forward, this lead shoulder behind. Okay, so our shoulder path is pointing to the left as a right-hander. Okay, obviously the opposite as a lefty. So the reason this occurs so much is ball position. All right, we want that ball position to be forward in our stance with our driver. Makes sense. But if we're not thinking about it and we take our setup, as I move the club head forward to meet the ball, naturally my shoulders want to open like this, okay? And that's why you see a lot of like the best in the world, they're setting up and they're kind of wiggling and they're moving around and they're making sure everything is square. Because again, the further that ball goes forward, you can see here, my shoulders start opening. And that means my path is likely going to be a little bit more to the left. So I'm going to be coming outside and delivering inside, and that's going to cut across the ball, and that's going to create that slice. So again, with this idea of the spectrum of opening face, closing face, let's now work on that idea or that concept with our setup. You know, we'll have an open shoulders, our closed shoulders, and then somewhere in between. And again, depending on your tendencies and your ball flight, you may want to tweak this a little bit. But I assure you, you fix these two things, we've already fixed face up. Now we're just working on our path. It's all pretty gravy from there. Okay, so I'm going to take my setup. I'm going to get that lead shoulder way behind me by bringing my hands forward to that golf ball and not being aware of it. Now, instinctively in this setup, I'm going to cut across the ball. Even if my grip is good, it's going to create a bit of a slice. Okay, let's give that a go. So great contact, but I could feel myself exiting really hard left, and there you go. You can see that curvature immediately. Okay, now again, face to path is now 6.5 degrees open, and all I did was change my setup, not my grip. Okay, so my path was excessively to the left. So let's work on the opposite feeling here. Let's get this club, and I actually want you to put the club, imagine a head cover behind. Okay, so I'm going to set up really far with it behind, and see how when I do this, like I'm going to drag the club head, I'm bringing this lead shoulder forward and that trail shoulder behind me now. And I'm going to try and hit a ball from here, and this is going to probably curve pretty hard to the left. because I've closed my shoulders off. So my path is now in to out. And again, you can see that. So two extremes. I have that ball curving hard right and the ball curving hard left. Again, face to path, basically minus 5 degrees. So I've closed it 5 degrees. Again, let's take everything we know now. Okay, let's try and get a square set up. Take my setup here, good grip, nice neutral grip. Getting squared up. Now, how I square myself up, really simple. I want the butt end of the club to point at my belly button, and then I'm going to drop the club from there. And I can look down, I can kind of check, yep, I'm not too skewed in either direction. But you notice the club head is behind the ball. Now, not a bad idea if you slice the ball frequently to start hitting some shots with a club set up to your midline, just at the range. Start hitting some shots and see if that changes your path, okay? Now, all I'm gonna do is let that club drag forward, being mindful that I'm not moving my shoulders as I do this. I'm just gonna move my hands forward to meet the club, okay? So I have a good grip. I have much better alignment with my shoulders that are now square to my feet and parallel to my target line. And now we take a swing from there. Again, look at my face to path, minus 0.7. So essentially 1 degree closed. I've hit a nice draw, okay? Let's just start right of the target line and then come back a little bit. I'm gonna be taking those all day. Again, good to note, it's not slicing right like crazy, okay? So that's how I would go about fixing your slice. I know that, everyone in the world is struggling with how to fix that slice. But like I said, if you can fix the face to path, and then you can even iron that path in a little bit, all because we've changed our grip slightly, we've changed our setup, predominantly our shoulder plane in our setup as well. All of that is doing wonders to fixing the face to path and the path itself. If you get those things dialed, you're gonna start hitting a lot more shots that look like this. Hopefully that helped you. If you found this information to be important, if it helps your golf game, please let me know in the comments. I'd love to know if it's working for you. And if you want to share it with some friends, that'd be brilliant. Of course, a like and a subscribe go a massive way to supporting me and my channel and keeping me motivated to get this content out there. I appreciate the support. If you'd like to work together, you can find me online through Skillist or my social media at Freeform Golf. And together, we'll train your game.